Belgium is mourning a day after the deadly collision between a train and a school bus.
German far-left militant Daniela Klater receives a 13-year sentencing for armed robberies committed while she was a fugitive.
The Israeli military clashed with Hezbollah fighters north of the strategic Litani River on Wednesday, on the edge of an Israeli-declared yellow line in South Lebanon where its troops have been operating. The clashes came as Israeli officials say soldiers have begun operating beyond the yellow line, which runs around 10 kilometers deep inside Lebanese territory and where residents have been warned not to return. The Litani River has been a de facto boundary in Lebanon, with large areas to the south under Israeli military control despite the ceasefire that's been in place for over a month. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also said that his country was intensifying operations in Lebanon.
אנחנו מבצרים את רצועת הביטחון כדי להגן על יישובי הצפון. במקביל אנחנו מקדמים מאמץ לאומי ענק כדי לקדם פתרונות יצירתיים וחדשניים נגד רחפני הנפץ.
Israel also intensified the scope of its strikes on South and East Lebanon on Tuesday, killing at least 31 people according to Lebanese authorities, as Hezbollah also kept up its attacks. Israel's army renewed an evacuation warning for the major southern city of Nabatea, saying it would act forcefully against Hezbollah, which it accuses of violating the ceasefire. Israel says it has killed the new head of Hamas's armed wing in Gaza, Mohammed Odeh, during airstrikes in Gaza City less than 2 weeks after killing his predecessor. Local hospital officials said 5 people were killed in the strikes, including Odeh's wife, 2 children, and another woman. The attack came despite an ongoing ceasefire and on the eve of Eid al-Adha, a major Muslim holiday. In a post on X, Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz repeated Israel's goal of ending Hamas's rule over the Palestinian territory, but also alluded to a plan for the forced displacement of its residents, writing that a plan for voluntary migration from Gaza will also be implemented. Israel still retains control of over 60% of the Gaza Strip, including all entry and exit points, while the population is concentrated on the coast and a ceasefire reached between Israel and Hamas in October remains fragile. Israeli attacks have killed more than 900 Palestinians since the ceasefire took effect, according to Gaza's health ministry. Israel says its attacks are in response to violations by Hamas or threats to its soldiers, but Palestinian health officials say scores of civilians have been among the dead. 4 Israeli soldiers have also been killed during this period in Gaza.
German far-left militant Daniela Klater has been sentenced to 13 years in prison on Wednesday for a series of armed robberies committed while she was a fugitive. The 67-year-old and former member of the Red Army faction, or RAF, was arrested in her Berlin apartment in February 2024 after evading authorities for more than 30 years. Klater was found guilty of 6 counts of particularly serious robbery committed between 1999 and 2016, as well as other charges including extortion and arms violations. The robbers got away with a total of 2.4 million euros, according to prosecutors. Klater was accused of having been the getaway driver in several heists and carrying a realistic-looking dummy bazooka in robberies where the men carried assault rifles. Prosecutors also accused Klater of 3 politically motivated attacks in the 1990s, while the gang was still active, but those charges are being dealt with in separate proceedings. The RAF is also known as the Baader-Meinhof Gang, a radical anti-capitalist group that carried out killings, bombings and kidnappings mainly in the 1970s and 1980s.
Belgium is mourning a day after the deadly collision between a train and a school bus at a crossing level that killed 4 people and injured 5 children. People laid flowers at the scene of the accident and signed a condolence book at the city hall. The pupils were attending a school for children with specific needs in the small Flemish town of Burenhout. The school principal said 2 children could exit the hospital in the coming days, while the 3 others still present serious injuries requiring a lot of care, Belgian public broadcaster RTBF reports. Locals reacted to the tragic accident.
Ook niet. Ik heb wel vastgesteld dat er enorm veel politiewagens, brandweerwagens, ambulancewagens dus op pad waren. Een beetje na 8 uur deze morgen.
Wij betreuren ten zeerste het ongeval. En wij proberen mee te leven met de getroffen familie. Met hetgeen gebeurd is.
Magda's son was supposed to take the train that hit the school bus.
Dus vertelde dat het wel iets gehoord was, een boom of zoiets, maar had ik op telefoon met muziek, dus ja, misschien dat was in die liedje of gewoon, ja, dat is druk 's ochtends. Maar en daarna beseffen dat het wel iets gebeurde.
Authorities didn't provide any information on the state of the victims or on the follow-up to the investigation. The heat wave affecting France and a large part of Europe is completely unprecedented and historic, the French weather forecaster said. Temperature reached 35 degrees Celsius near London and could hit 39 degrees Celsius in some areas of France. The British are facing the warmest May on record.
Well, I'm working in the kitchen, so it's atrocious.
In Paris, tourists adapt their visit amid an unprecedented heat wave.
In the first part of the day, everything is going well and interesting, but then I'm going to my flat and just sleep because I need to have more energy because, yeah, it's so hot in this time.
Around 1,500 people died because of the heat in England last summer, Britain's health security authorities said. The Policy and Communications Director of the Grantham Research Institute says Britain will have to make changes to homes and businesses to make them less dangerous.
Well, we know that the temperatures we reached yesterday, which were nearly 35 degrees in London, unfortunately will likely have killed hundreds of people across the country. People with underlying health conditions, particularly respiratory illness, and they mainly die in homes that overheat.
The current heat wave is not an emergency, the French health minister said, though she urged the public to be cautious and follow safety guidelines.
Georgia marked its Independence Day on Tuesday with a parade attended by officials and new military service recruits taking their oath. The event in Tbilisi's Freedom Square was attended by officials from Georgia's governing party and representatives of the Georgian Patriarchy.
ეს დამოუკიდებლობის აღდგენიდან 35 წლის თავზე თითოეულ პატრიოტ ქართველს შეუძლია იამაყოს, რომ საქართველო არის დამოუკიდებელი და სუვერენული, როგორც არასდროს. სწორედ დამოუკიდებლობასა და სუვერენიტეტში გაძლიერება მისცა ჩვენს ქვეყანას შეასრულება ურთულესი გამოწვევების მიუხედავად. მტკიცედ დაიცვა სარწმუნოება, შეენარჩუნა ბინამშვიდობა და დადგომოდა წინსვლისა და განვითარების უწყოთ გზას, რომელიც აუცილებლად იგვიყვანს აღთქმულ მიწამდე, ჩვენი ყველა ეროვნული მიზნის მიღწევამდე, გამთლიანებულ და გაბრწყინებულ საქართველომდე.
The celebrations come during deep polarization within Georgian society, as opposition parties have refused to recognize the new parliament and the government has shelved EU membership talks with Brussels until 2028. Late on Tuesday, thousands of Georgians staged a pro-Europe rally in the capital, Tbilisi, to protest what critics say is government's democratic backsliding and anti-Western tilt. Waving Georgian and EU flags, thousands of protesters marched through the city before staging a rally outside Parliament amid a heavy police presence. Georgia has been mired in political turmoil since parliamentary elections in 2024.
Final preparations are underway in Budapest ahead of Saturday's Champions League final. Broadcast trucks are already arriving at the Puskás Stadium and local businesses are gearing up for the #1 tourism event of the year.
A két résztvevő csapat 17 000 jegyet kap a meccsre, de ennél várhatóan sokkal többen érkeznek majd. Az Arsenal egyik játékosa, Declan Rice azt kérte a londoni drukkerektől, hogy legalább 200 000-en utazzanak el a magyar főváros.
Experts in tourism say Budapest can expect at least 200,000 fans to descend upon the city.
Budapest esetében ekkora terhelés turisztikai szempontból nem nagyon volt még. Itt foglalási adatokat tudunk nézni, árakat tudunk nézni, booking adatokat tudunk nézni, repülőtérforgalmat tudunk nézni, ami azt mutatja, hogy egy olyan plusz 200-250 000 ember érkezik pár napra Budapestre, ami jelentősen befolyásolja az itt élőknek a mindennapjait, illetve a turizmusból élőknek a bevételeit.
According to Budis, the transportation network will be under enormous pressure. Locals would be wise to avoid the area around the stadium.
Vannak a direkt bevételek és vannak az indirekt bevételek. Ha mindent összeadunk, akkor körülbelül olyan 20 milliárd forintos extra bevételt jelent. Ez nyilván kiadást is jelent a szervezőknek, a fővárosnak, stb.
Data shows that accommodation and flight bookings have reached roughly 250% of the usual amount. Weekend flight prices from the home cities of the two finalists, Paris and London, start at around €500 one way, while hotel rooms still available for a single night are priced similarly. Local football fans were allocated just 4,600 tickets for the Champions League final, while ticket prices ranged from around €70 for the cheapest seats to as much as 3,500 for the most expensive ones.